chance to look at themselves and their work and find that it doesn't measure up, to face our shortcomings honestly and put the time in, the work to bridge that gap. We live in our own fantasy without honest appraisal of our abilities. What we have is not confidence but delusion. By all this motivation stuff and all this hype created by the self-help industry and the other motivation gurus, whatever, that you can, this whole thing that you can achieve whatever you set your mind to, can create unrealistic expectations. Nowadays we are caught up in this right attitude or right pose or right routine that can make us, that can make us those billionaires that we want to become. But what is our belief dependent upon? We need to believe in ourselves. In we need to believe in ourselves. But what about achievements? For that, you really need to understand, what do you want? Do you really want to become that entrepreneur, or are you or is it just because of money, honor, or the image of success? Do we really know what it entails to be something? What work we need to do in order to become one? Or is it just seeing someone or their privileges? If you don't like that thing that you're doing, how do you expect success? It was easier to talk about writing, to do the exciting things related to art and creation and literature than to commit the act itself. After spending so much time thinking, explaining, and talking about a task, we start we start to feel that we have gotten closer to achieving it. I just spent 4 hours talking about this. Doesn't that account for something? The answer is no. Doing great work is a struggle. It's draining. It's demoralizing. It's frightening. So before you talk about what you're doing on Instagram, social media, or normally with your friends, first think about what work, what kind of progress you're making on the project that you're talking about. Everyone can talk about things. This is what I'm going to do. This is my multi-billionaire, multi-dollar sort of industry that I'm going to create. I'm going to do business. But what about the work? Have you really thought about it? Plato spoke of the type of people who are guilty of feasting on their own thoughts. It was apparently common enough even then to find people who, instead of finding out how something they desire might actually come about, they pass that over so as to avoid tiring deliberations about what's possible. They assume that what they desire is available and proceed to arrange the rest, taking pleasure in thinking through everything they will do when they have what they want, thereby making their lazy souls even lazier. Even our imagination, in many senses, is an asset, but it's dangerous when it runs wild. So, yes, a lot of times what we do is we create these grand narratives, we create these grand plans, and we talk about the times when we will finally achieve those goals that we set out to achieve, and the kind of things that we will buy, the kind of the cars, we talk about the money, we talk about the houses, we talk about everything. But instead of putting in the effort or the work, we just talk about this and that and that. But we don't really understand or plan how would we achieve those things. But we know there's a vision that just, like a lightning bolt has struck us, and now the divine power will, just bring that about. But in reality, that book that you always wanted to write, in reality, the thing that you always wanted to have, that even writing a novel is a hard task. You cannot just have a vision and it's done. We don't like thinking that someone is better than us or that we have a lot to learn. We want to be done. We want to be ready. We are busy and overburdened for this reason. Updating your appraisal of your talents in a downward direction is one of the most difficult things to do in this life. But it is almost always a component of mastery to have someone better than them, so that they can learn from. You can't learn if you think you already know. If we not only need to take this harsh feedback but actively solicit it. labor to seek out the negative. It's very important that we know that we are not just made up of positive things, that we are also made up of negative things, and we need to seek out criticism sometimes. We need to think about our weaknesses. It's very hard to look at those sides of her, those aspects that are negative, but it's very important that we look at this, at our negative points, and we understand it. We understand our weaknesses so that we can somehow, change them into positivity or somehow accept them. Passion typically masks a weakness. Its restlessness and impetuousness and franticness are poor substitutes for discipline, for mastery, for strength and purpose and perseverance. Those who can tell you in great detail who they intend to become and what their success will be like, they can tell you all the things they're going to do, even even before they have begun. But they cannot show you their progress because there really is any. Purpose is about pursuing something outside yourself as opposed to pleasuring yourself. It's very important that passion is the bundle of energy that everybody talks about, that leaders and whatnot, and our teachers and parents talk about. Passion is important. Passion is what? Passion is that energy. Passion is that sort of thing that we just get into something without thinking about it. Sometimes we under invest, sometimes we over invest. We don't really think about the weaknesses in our plan. We're passionate to just go ahead and do it instead of actually thinking about it. It doesn't matter how well you're doing, your ego and the accomplishments make you feel like nothing, just as others make them feel the same way. It's a cycle that goes on ad infinitum. While a brief time on earth, or the small window of opportunity we have here, does not, so we consciously pick up the pace to keep up with others. But what if different people running for different reasons? What if there's more than one race going on? It is about getting where you set out to go. It's time to sit down and think about what's truly important to you and then take steps to forsake the rest. If you don't know how much you need, the default easily becomes more than. Is it easy to ignore success? More than. Is it easy to ignore successful people? Okay, the point here is that we are basically making a life a sort of a race, a race for money, a race for this and race for that, that you want to beat everyone. But is this the solution to everything? I mean, can you can you beat everyone? Like, I mean, there will be someone who's greater than you, and everybody knows that there will be someone who's more smarter, who's more richer, who's more blah blah blah. Everybody knows this, but still, we have sort of reduced everything to a race, race for money, race for this, race for that, and pata nahi kya kya. But in reality, it's very dismal. There's no race. Life is not a race. Do what you want. Do what is important for you. Do what is important. Do not say, oh, this is the successful person. This is the person. This person is doing this, so I'm gonna do this. This successful person has this business, and I'm gonna just go with this business, right? But what we do is we don't really understand what's important. We don't just think about that. I want to do this, but what we do is we are entangled in this self-improvement stuff that just tells us do this, do that, and we just in that sort of rat race for, I don't know, for money, for money, for money. That's the worry and the risk taking, that we are set and secure, when in reality understanding and mastery is a fluid is a fluid game. Being a student is a position that one has to assume for life. Learn from everyone and everything, from the people you beat and the people who beat you, from the people who you dislike, even from your supposed enemies. At every step and at every juncture is in life, there's the opportunity to learn. Pick up a book on a topic you know next to nothing about. Put yourself in rooms where you're the least knowledgeable person. Yes, that's important. Learning is always important. Challenging yourself is always important, because when you master something, when you start to understand something, it's become too easy for you, right? Then then there's no challenge. Why? And your brain and your neurons, and there's no neuroplasticity in that as well. When you push yourself, you challenge yourself, you also challenge your brain to sort of start making more connections, and it makes your thinking and cognition better as well through the process of neuroplasticity, because when you push yourself, you also push your brain to, and you challenge yourself, you grow more neuron, you grow, you because you use them, you grow more neurons. And not in the sense that you're growing neurons, but in the sense also you're growing neurons in your hippocampus. Neurogenesis happens in your hippocampus because you're remembering information, and also you're building the connections, the synapses between the cells. Ego needs honor in order to be validated. Confidence, on the other hand, is able to wait and focus on the task at hand, regardless of external recognition. When someone works on a project, whether it's a book or a business or otherwise, at a certain point that thing leaves their hands and enters the realm of the world. It is judged, received, and acted on by other people. It stops being something he controls and it depends on them. He could determine his personal ethics. He could not control whether his work would be appreciated or whether it aroused suspicion. This reality rings essentially true for everyone in every kind of life. We have only minimal control over the rewards for our work and effort. Other people's validation, recognition, reward. So what are we going to do? Not be kind, not work hard, not produce because there's a chance it wouldn't be reciprocated? Come on, it's far better when doing good work is sufficient, when fulfilling our own standards is what fills with pride and self-respect. That is something which is very, very important, because it's very difficult in this world of instant success or overnight success that we see a lot of money related success. We see a lot of Twitter sensations, Instagram sensations. Very difficult for even for me, that that to just work for yourself, to work for the pleasure of working, not for something other than that. And it's difficult to cultivate. But if you like something that you do, something that you're doing, if you like it, then it doesn't really matter. Even though you do look at your Instagram likes, or your subscribers, but then that work itself is your validation. The founding of a company, making money in the market, or the formation of an idea is messy. When we achieve our own, we must resist the desire to pretend that everything unfolded exactly as we had planned. There was no grand narrative. It's not how YouTube started. Its founders weren't trying to reinvent TV, they were trying to share funny video clips. From that place, we might think that success in the future is just the natural next part of the story, when really it is rooted in work, creativity, persistence, and luck. Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, has talked about this temptation. He reminds himself that there was no aha moment for his billion-dollar behemoth. No matter what he might read in his own press clippings. Okay, so this is really important, that I think I see a lot of YouTubers, motivation YouTubers, talk about this thing that you need to have your narrative. That what is narrative? It's about story. It's storytelling. It's about that this happened, and I did this, and then finally this was the thing that I succeeded. That I'm in a story, and the story is unfolding, and so basically a lot of multi-dollar or multi-billionaire or these sort of industries are tricky. It's not just you that you're trying to put in the work and the effort, and then it's going to pay off like that. Obviously, we need to do the work, and the rest will follow. Do your own work, and just let it go, let it out, and then see what happens. But don't think and assume that things will just change like that, and then you will get disappointed, because you don't really know, you don't control that's stoicism, right? So Ryan Holiday is, I guess, is a big fan of stoicism. He's talking about controlling your own desires, and controlling and thinking that it might not be that big of a success, right? Ego thinks embarrassment, or failure are more than what they are. History is full of people who suffered abject humiliations, yet they recovered to have long and impressive careers. When we lose, we have a choice. Are we going to make this a lose lose situation for ourselves and everyone involved, or will it be a lose and then win? Because we will lose in life, it's a fact. Understand that these positions are transitory, not statements about your value as a human. The only real failure is abandoning your principles. Okay, so that is for sure. Failures, suffering, all of these are part and parcel of life. Adversity is going to happen, but what is going to be your attitude in that adversity? So Ryan Holiday mentions that Robert Greene talks about dead time and a lifetime. So what is dead time and a lifetime? A lifetime is basically when you are using your failure in order to learn what you did wrong, and uh, in order to cultivate those habits and those things that you need, that would help come in handy when you will be successful. So failure is not about you as a person, it's not about specifically your value as a person. It's about the work, it's about what you're doing, and it's very it's not something which is permanent. It's gonna change, right? It's gonna change with time. As you put in the effort, as you put in the work, it will change. It's not that it's gonna stay this forever. You have to work, you will work, and everything will just be okay. So it's not as rosy as, obviously, as I'm picturing and I'm mentioning. Oh, it's everything will be fine and all that. Failure is difficult. One of the best things about failure is we learn a lot from that, because the pain, the anguish, and everything, it could break us, it could make us think about the things that were wrong. Because when chaos, or to say Jordan B. Peterson, how Jordan B. Peterson talks about chaos, when something happens that you never expected, something, so you need to understand. So you start thinking about this thing that just happened, that's completely, you never thought about it. So what the thing about us is our information, or the data that we capture through our senses, it's very limited. We cannot get everything. So when the chaos happened, so it's an opportunity to get those data, that thing that we never noticed. So we start thinking about the things that we never noticed. We thought, oh, this was possible, this was something, I never thought about this, I never thought about that. So failure could be an opportunity in disguise, that you think about, you start reevaluating your life, start reevaluating what you're doing, and thinking, and like, of changing things that you're doing, habits, some bad habits, or whatever, you're procrastinating, whatever. So yeah, I hope you like it, and that's it. That's my first video, and I'm excited. As you can, I think, as you can hear from my voice, and I'm excited. It's a pretty long video. I wanted it to be like 4 or 5 minutes long, but I was new, so it's my first attempt. So I don't know what is it like. How would it be like? And I'm excited, and obviously, I know I didn't did a good job at that, because I have to learn a lot about video, but still, it's my first attempt.